Board of Supervisors has voted, as you know, 3-1 to join President Trump's lawsuit against the state of California over those sanctuary state policies.
Here to talk about the board's decision is board chairperson Kristin Gaspar. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's talk a little bit about the mechanics behind that. What happened behind the scenes as you were all discussing this in closed session?
Well, I can't quite give you behind the scenes in closed session, but I can share with you my personal thoughts and why I cast the vote the way that I did. So the county board has decided to file an amicus brief at the next available opportunity. The court establishes some deadlines in this case, so our next available opportunity will likely be on appeal. But that amicus brief will give San Diego the opportunity to share our unique story, our narrative, and tell the federal government, the state, the court, the local impacts that we're experiencing under SB 54. You know, we heard the government's comments yesterday and really an attack on anyone who doesn't like SB 54. But the reality is there are things happening today in San Diego as a result of SB 54 that are very harmful and unsafe for our citizens.
All right, let's talk about that, because I think a lot of people are saying, well, we've been living under a, you know, before SB 54, you know, we've been living fine the way it is. What's so dangerous? Why do we need to join in this federal lawsuit? Why should we even get involved in something on the federal level?
Well, the status quo was actually much safer for San Diego. After 9/11, you heard a lot about the importance of coordination between local, state, and federal agencies. That was happening. We had established wonderful task forces to deal with human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking across the border, working with our local law enforcement. In our jails, it's important to note that since January alone, there were 487 individuals in our jails that ICE had placed a hold on. Now, prior to SB 54, immigration authorities would be notified upon their release date. Now, these are not people who simply committed a crime by coming across our border. These are individuals who came across our border illegally and committed a crime that was worthy of serving jail time. Under SB 54, of those 487 individuals, 284, due to SB 54, were simply released back out in the community, absent the opportunity to notify immigration authorities at all.
Don't our ICE agents have access to the county jail website and have every opportunity, like we all do, to look and see who's already in jail?
That's a really good question, because that was a significant change. It used to be the case that immigration authorities had a presence in the jails. They had an actual office space in the jail. And what they could do was track those release dates, but they were provided that information by local law enforcement. So it wasn't as though our local law enforcement was tasked with enforcing immigration laws, but rather they would provide that information. I want you to think about this number. 1 to 3 people each and every day in San Diego now are just released back out in the community. And you hear a lot about individuals really resisting the presence of Border Patrol, ICE out in the community, because when they're pursuing felons out in the community in order to deport them, oftentimes you find those situations where family members are wrapped up in that deportation when they go out into the community. So that's a significant change.
This goes to the deeper question about even the need for the sanctuary state and the sanctuary city and the sanctuary county, sanctuary, sanctuary, sanctuary. We hear that all the time, as if California isn't a welcoming state. And the truth is that what you're fighting against is this narrative of racism, that somehow the fact that we have laws in the state are racist against people who come from other countries. Now, how did you address that within your group there at the county when you were talking about this whole situation with SB 54? Do you consider it racist at all, that we are somehow upholding our laws and that becomes a racist issue?
Well, it's a very sensitive topic, and a lot of emotion comes with this topic. And it doesn't help when we have a governor who talks about this in such a way that it's an inflammatory football, and if you don't agree with what he's doing, then you're in the wrong. I've decided to look at this issue pragmatically for San Diego and what the changes have meant for San Diego. Our local law enforcement should not have their hands tied, because we're dealing with significant issues bordering Mexico. And you see the stories about the human sex trafficking into San Diego and that industry and the drugs coming across our border. We need to have all of our resources aligned. We need to be able to cooperate and collaborate with authorities. And under SB 54, we can't do that. In addition, our probation department, their hands are tied. They used to be able to go out and track felons and provide information as to their whereabouts to immigration authorities. That's no longer the case. So if we remove emotion, let's take a real hard look at SB 54, its implementation, and the changes in San Diego. Separate out the emotion and recognize there is no way to make the argument we're more safe now. Law enforcement before cultivated that environment where they wanted people to feel safe in reporting incidents, reporting things that they saw. Our deputies before didn't ask people about their immigration status when they reported out to calls. I think sometimes people are unaware of that fact.
I want to talk a little bit about this amicus brief because, you know, a lot has been said about even joining it, why the need to join it. It really doesn't do anything. By joining this, you know, saying we support the federal government, that doesn't have any teeth. I mean, that doesn't do anything for us. In fact, one of your colleagues, Greg Cox, yesterday put out a statement saying the county joining the lawsuit between the feds and the state is unnecessary. This is an issue that is properly going to be addressed by the federal courts. So why even get involved if it's not really going to do anything to say we support the federal government on this?
Well, I don't share Supervisor Cox's view. The reality is San Diego needs to share its unique narrative with the court. And so a lot of people do not believe in that local impact. But I've shared with you this morning that real local impact. The court needs to know and understand that while the intent of the law might be a pure one, the practical application of this law is making San Diego unsafe. And we can't sit idly by knowing that that threat exists. Our #1 priority on the county board is public safety. If our #1 priority is public safety, we need to take this issue seriously, and we need to play a role in this.
We'll see how the federal government proceeds as they continue to get more support actually in California. And I think what's happening in Sacramento is you're getting a recoil effect. And you're right, the rhetoric is elevating into a more emotional state, as what we've heard from the Attorney General and the Governor. So it appears that perhaps the amicus brief will lend a little bit more power to to what's going on with that lawsuit.
Certainly. I agree with that.
All right. Kristin, great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
So much. And as we